So you already know how to code. You've written some programs, maybe solved problems on HackerRank or LeetCode, and you're thinking, okay, coding pat is the track for me. Good call. But here's the first question people ask me all the time. Rohan, I've got 15 days. Can I actually prepare in time? Short answer, yes. If you've been coding for at least a few months and you focus hard, but here's where most students go wrong. They think, oh, I can code, so I'll just show up and write some code. How hard can it be? And then they sit down for the test. They see 40 MCQs asking them to predict output without running the code, and suddenly they panic. Or they get to the long form coding questions, realize they've got 10 minutes per problem, and they're used to taking 30. I'm Rohan from Polaris, and I've seen this happen way too many times. So let me be clear about what Coding Pat actually tests. You've got 120 minutes online. Inside that time, you'll see 40 coding MCQs, 5 actual coding problems where you write real code, 20 cognitive aptitude questions. Now here's the important thing. This isn't LeetCode hard algorithm puzzles. This is about pattern recognition. This is about writing clean code under time pressure. This is about knowing the difference between solving a problem and solving it in 9 minutes. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to prepare in 15 days. We'll cover the 5 problem patterns that cover 90% of long form questions, which MCQ types matter most, and how to write code that works the first time. Your target score should be 170 out of 240. That roughly breaks down to 27 correct MCQs, 3.5 long form problems fully solved, 17 cognitive questions. And yes, that's very doable if you've been coding for 6 months to a year and you practice smart for 15 days straight. So let's break it down. Coding MCQs, it's not what you think. Okay, section A, 40 MCQs, 120 marks. Now, these are not which algorithm is most efficient questions. They're not asking you to analyze time complexity. They're testing one thing. Can you read code and understand what it does? Let me break down the 4 types you'll see. Type 1, output prediction. This is the biggest chunk, 15 to 20 questions. They give you code, you tell them what it outputs. For example, A equals 4, B equals 7. A equals A plus B, B equals A, B, A equals A, B, print A, B. What's the output? Now, here's the key difference. In your normal coding practice, you run the code to see what happens. In this test, you can't run anything. You have to trace it mentally. That's a completely different skill, which means you have to practice it. How? Solve 100 output prediction problems without running them. Force yourself to trace line by line on paper. Write down variable values as they change. Geeks for Geeks has a whole section on this. HackerRank 2. Start there. Your time allocation should be about 1 to 1.5 minutes per question. If it's taking longer, you're probably overthinking it. Type 2. Debugging. You'll see 5 to 8 questions like this. They give you code, there's a bug. Your job is to find it. For example, if x equals 5, print 5. What's wrong? It's using assignment equals n instead of comparison equals n. That's a super common bug. Other patterns you'll see. Array index out of bounds, off by 1 loop errors, using and when you meant or. The trick here is not to trace the whole program. Instead, scan quickly for the common mistakes. Check equals versus double equals, loop boundaries, array indexing. These should take 1.5 to 2 minutes each. Type 3, purpose questions. You'll get 5 to 7 questions like this. They show you a piece of code and ask, what does this program do? For example, sum equals 0. For I equals 1 to n, sum equals sum plus I. This is computing the sum of the first n natural numbers. So here, you need to recognize patterns. Common patterns include factorial, prime check, Fibonacci, G, C, D. Finding array maximum, string reversal. The more problems you've solved before, the faster you'll recognize them. That's exactly why you should solve 150 practice problems during preparation. These should take about 1.5 minutes each. Type 4, logical reasoning in code format. You'll see 8 to 10 questions like this. These are basically logical reasoning questions disguised as code. Things like series completion, coding, decoding, pattern puzzles. They just use code syntax to present the problem. Use the same strategies you'd use in logical reasoning. Don't get distracted by the code format. The 5 problem patterns, this is key. Now let's move to section B. This is where you actually write code. You'll get 5 coding problems. Total 60 marks. Each problem is worth 12 marks. That's the same as 4 MCQs. So even solving 3 of these correctly can dramatically increase your score. Now here's something I've noticed. Students think every coding problem is unique. They read a new question and think, oh no, I've never seen this before. But that's not actually true. 90% of these problems fit into just 5 patterns. If you learn these patterns, you'll recognize most questions instantly. Pattern 1, number manipulation. These are problems about digits, reversing numbers, palindromes, prime numbers. For example, given a number, count how many digits it has. Input 4, 5, 8, 9, 2, output 5. A typical solution looks like this. N equals int input. Count equals 0, while n is greater than 0. Count plus equals 1, n equals 10, print count, simple, right? But under pressure, students mess up the loop condition or forget to divide by 10. Other problems in this pattern include reverse a number without converting to string. Check if a number is palindrome. Sum of digits, check if number is prime. During your 15 days, you should solve at least 10 problems of this type until writing this kind of code becomes automatic. Pattern 2, array operations. Now let's talk about pattern 2, array problems. These are things like find minimum, find second smallest. Check if an array is sorted. Count even numbers. Find the longest increasing subarray. Very common stuff. Here's an example. Find the second smallest distinct value in an array. Input 4, 1, 2, 1, 3. Output 2. Now what's the idea here? You simply track the smallest and second smallest values as you go through the array once. Like this. Smallest equals float inf. Second equals float inf for x in ARR. If x is less than smallest, second equals smallest. Smallest equals x. And if x equals smallest and x is less than second, second equals x. Clean, simple. Just one pass through the array. That's exactly the kind of solution these tests expect. So what should you practice? Solve about 12 array problems. Get comfortable with array traversal, finding max and min, handling duplicates, tracking multiple values during iteration. Once you've done a dozen of these, you'll start recognizing the pattern instantly. Now let's move to pattern 3, string processing. This includes problems like reverse a string, reverse each word, count characters, check palindrome, remove vowels. For example, reverse each word in a sentence but keep the word order the same. Input, hello Polaris students. Output, OLH Sralo P Sneduts. In Python, the solution might look like this. S equals input, words equals S split, result equals W -1 for W in words. Print, join, rest. Now here's something important. If you're using C++, this becomes a bit messier, which is one reason I usually recommend Python for this test. So during your preparation, solve about 10 string problems, focus on split, join, reversing strings, counting characters. Once these operations become automatic, these questions become easy marks. Next is pattern 4, iteration and counting. This includes things like factorial, Fibonacci, pattern printing, series generation. These are mostly loop-based problems. Usually very straightforward as long as you're careful with loop boundaries. Here's a classic example. Print the factorial of n equals int input, result equals 1 for I in range 1 n plus 1. Result equals I, print result. Now the thing you need to watch out for here is off by 1 errors. Is it range n or range n plus 1? Is it range 1 n or range 1 n plus 1? The easiest way to avoid mistakes, trace the code with a small value like n equals 3. Just manually run through the loop once or twice. Practice about 10 problems from this category. Now we get to pattern 5, basic algorithms. This includes patterns like 2 pointers, sliding window, simple recursion. Here's a good example. Longest continuous increasing subarray. Input 1, 3, 5, 4, 7. Output 3. Why? Because 1, 3, 5 is the longest strictly increasing sequence. So how do we solve this? We keep track of the current length, the best length so far. Here's what the code looks like. Best equals 1. Current equals 1 for I in range 1 n. If ARRI is greater than ARRI1, current plus equals 1. Else, current equals 1, best equals max best current. Print best. So every time the sequence continues, we increase the count. If it breaks, we reset. Then we track the maximum length seen so far. Practice about 10 problems in this pattern. So overall, your total practice volume for long form coding should be around 100 to 120 problems. That's roughly 10-12 problems per pattern across the 5 patterns plus some extra mixed practice. And where should you get these problems? LeetCode easy section. Not medium, not hard, just easy. Because the PAT exam isn't testing advanced algorithms. It's testing whether you can write clean working code for standard problems under time pressure. Python vs C++. Let's settle this. Let's talk quickly about language choice. My recommendation, Python, and here's why. First, Python is faster to write, no semicolons, no curly braces, no type declarations. You're writing 5 problems in 45 minutes. Every second matters. Second, Python has powerful built-in functions. Splitting a string, S, split, reversing a string, S, -1, sorting, sorted, R. In C++, you usually write more code for the exact same task. Third, Python handles input very easily. Input, split. In C++, you're dealing with sin, getline, buffers, which sometimes slows people down. Now, here's the important part. If you've been coding in C++ for 2 years and Python for 2 months, stick with C++. Don't learn a new language just for this test. But if you're equally comfortable in both, or if you're just starting to prepare for PAT, go with Python. What about Java? Java is the most verbose of the three. Only use it if it's significantly your strongest language. And whichever language you pick, stick to it. Don't switch. Your muscle memory for syntax matters a lot in a time test. Your 15-day intensive plan, all right, 15 days. Let's talk about how you're actually going to use them. This is going to be intense. You're looking at 4 to 5 hours every day, every single day. If you've got school or work, that means you're coding before and after. No compromises. Phase 1. Learn the patterns days 1 to 5. This phase is about understanding the 5 patterns. Days 1 to morning about 2 hours. Focus on output prediction fundamentals. Solve 30 problems without running the code. Yes, without running it. Force yourself to trace it manually. Afternoon 2 hours. Work on pattern 1, number manipulation. Solve 10 problems from LeetCode Easy. Things like reversing digits, counting digits, prime checks. Evening 1 hour. Move to pattern 2, arrays. Solve 10 problems. Things like finding min, max, second smallest, checking sorted arrays, counting elements. Days 3-4. Morning 2 hours, practice debugging and purpose MCQs. Solve 20 problems. Focus on recognizing bugs quickly. Afternoon 2 hours. Now practice pattern 3, strings. Solve 10 problems. Things like reversing strings, reversing words, counting characters, palindrome checks. Evening 1 hour. Practice pattern 4 and pattern 5. That's iteration and basic algorithms. Solve 10 problems from each pattern. Day 5, morning. Quick review of all 5 patterns. Go through your notes. Revisit tricky problems. Afternoon. Take the sample paper, full 120 minutes. Treat it as your baseline test. Evening. Analyze your mistakes. Identify which patterns are weak. That's where you'll focus next. And throughout all 5 days, 20 cognitive aptitude questions daily, every single day. No skipping. By the end of day 5, you will have learned all 5 patterns, solved 60 to 70 coding problems. That's your foundation. Phase 2, build speed days 6 to 10. Now we shift gears. You're not learning new concepts anymore. You're building speed. Still 4 to 5 hours daily, every day. Morning 1.5 hours, solve 20 coding MCQs in 30 minutes. Then review the ones you got wrong. Understand why. Afternoon, 2 hours. Solve 4 long-form coding problems in 40 minutes. Mix all patterns. Don't stick to one type. You want your brain to recognize patterns instantly. Evening 1 hour. Do cognitive aptitude practice. Then review weak areas every alternate day. Day 6, day 8, day 10. Do a section B simulation, 5 coding problems, 45 minutes, just like the real test. Remember, you're not learning new material here. You're learning to recognize patterns fast and write clean code quickly. Phase 3, test mode days 11 to 15, last 5 days. Now you're in full simulation mode. Days 11, 12, 13, solve the sample paper 3 times, once per day, full 120 minutes each time. Then spend 30 minutes analyzing mistakes. That analysis is where most learning happens. Day 14, create your own test. 40 MCQs from Geeks for Geeks, 5 coding problems from LeetCode Easy. 1 from each of the 5 patterns. Time yourself. 120 minutes. Day 15, light practice only. Review all 5 patterns. Practice input, output, syntax in your language. Solve 5 easy problems just to build confidence. Then rest, sleep early. Practice volume in 15 days. Here's what your total preparation looks like. MCQs solved 300, 300, and 50. Long form coding problems, 100, 120 sample paper, 3 times, full simulations, 5, 6 total. Now look, this is less practice than someone who started 2 months ago. But if you focus on the 5 patterns and build speed, 170 is absolutely doable. The key is simple. Every problem you solve must belong to one of the 5 patterns. No random exploration, no advanced algorithms, just those 5 patterns. Over and over until they become automatic. Time management in the test. Now let's talk about test day. You've got 120 minutes, 65 questions. You're coding online in a browser-based editor. So here's your game plan. First 25 minutes, cognitive aptitude, all 20 questions. Remember, no negative marking, build momentum. Next, 45 minutes coding MCQs. Target 27 to 30, correct? First pass 25 minutes. Solve easy output predictions and simple debugging. Lock these in. Second pass 15 minutes. Now attempt the tougher functionality questions. Third pass 5 minutes. If you can eliminate 2 options, guess. Otherwise skip. Important rule. Don't spend more than 2 minutes on any MCQ. Mark it. Move on. Next 45 minutes long form coding. This is the highest scoring section. Each problem equals 12 marks. Spend 3 minutes reading all 5 problems. Identify which pattern each one belongs to. Then decide your order. Do not solve in the given order. Solve the easiest first. Last 5 minutes back to MCQs. Fill remaining answers strategically. Quickly scan easy ones for silly mistakes. Key rules for the coding section. Read all 5 problems first. Don't start blindly with problem 1. Solve easiest problems first. If stuck for 5 minutes, move on. Write clean code with meaningful variable names. It makes debugging easier. Before submitting, test your code mentally with the example input. And remember, partial solutions count. If you can't solve fully, solve the basic case. Resources and real talk. Now let's talk about resources. What you actually need. For MCQs, Geeks for Geeks, output prediction section, hacker rank problem solving, interview bit output questions. For long form coding, lead code easy section. This is your main resource. Sort by acceptance rate, high to low. Focus on tags, arrays, strings, math. Solve 150 problems total. For cognitive aptitude, India Picks, Elevate or PCAPs. For practice tests, sample paper 5 times. Lead code contests for time practice. Or create your own tests from problem lists. And honestly, you don't need paid courses. Don't buy expensive programs. The free resources are enough. Common mistakes coders make. Let me tell you the mistakes I see all the time. Mistake 1, not practicing output predictions separately. You're used to running code. Force yourself to trace code manually. Mistake 2, practicing in a full IDE with autocomplete. The real test won't have that. Practice in a basic editor. Mistake 3, learning a new language just for PAT. Use your strongest language. Don't switch. Mistake 4, only solving lead code medium or hard. PAT is easy level. Solve easy problems fast and accurately. Mistake 5, not timing yourself. You can solve 5 problems in 3 hours. But can you do it in 45 minutes? That's a completely different skill. Mistake 6, overcomplicating solutions. Simple working code beats complex optimal code with bugs. Mistake 7, not practicing input-output handling. Know how to read input in your language instantly. Don't waste test time on syntax. Mistake 8, giving up on partial solutions. If you can't solve completely, write code that works for the simplest case. That's still better than 0 marks. Test specific tips. The test is online. You'll be coding inside a browser-based code editor. So make sure you practice on a computer, not just on your phone or tablet. Stable internet is critical. And have a backup plan ready in case your connection drops. In a quiet room, no distractions. Block off the full 120 minutes. Check beforehand, see if the test platform allows you to run or test your code. If it does, use that feature for the long form problems. Run the sample input, verify your output. But if the platform doesn't allow code execution, then you need to practice testing code mentally. Practice using the mark for review feature for MCQs. Don't rely on memory to remember which questions you want to come back to. You've got 15 days. Yes, that's tight, but it's enough if you code every single day. Open lead code today. Filter for easy problems. Solve your first number manipulation problem. Then solve another. Then another. Build that pattern recognition. Build that speed. Build that muscle memory. And 15 days from now, you're walking away with 170 plus. You're getting into Polaris. I'm Rohan. See you at Polaris.